Hey gaming fans! So today I'm back at you with another deck profile, and this one is trying to go back to some of the original decks that I always loved to play. And this is an Exodia deck. Now, Exodia has always been a classic deck for Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, anybody that knows the game knows who Exodia is. It's pretty much this guy. You get the 5 pieces of Exodia in your hand, you win the game. It's as easy as that. But, you know, you still have all the other cards in your deck that you need to get through, and you need to get these into your hand without your opponent killing you before that happens. Now, I remember Exodia, you know, back in the days of, like, Legends of Blue Eyes White Dragon, when the set first came out, the first set of Yu-Gi-Oh! First came out, all the way up, you know, the first 3 sets, when not many people had the full set of Exodia. I mean, these were like secret rares, essentially, for the Legends of Blue Eyes set. I don't know if they were secrets or ultra rares or something like that, but not a lot of people didn't have the full set. Most people only had like 1 or 2 pieces, and I remember at the time, like, each piece was about $25, $30, something around that range, if you wanted to buy them individually. So they were quite expensive. And at the time, I was really still playing a lot of Magic. So Yu-Gi-Oh! To me was just like a secondary game, and I didn't want to drop that kind of money, you know, $30 to $50 per card just to have the set. And back then, I mean, there wasn't a lot to disrupt this deck. Essentially, getting all 5 pieces in your hand, you win the duel. So you think, okay, well, 40 card deck, 5 cards, I just got to get those 5 cards into my hand. As long as my opponent doesn't have anything to discard cards out of your hand, you're fine. But there was many different variants of the deck. There was variants that used like Painful Choice, which is a spell card, but would send 5 cards from your deck to your graveyard essentially. And you would use a trap called Backup Soldiers. So you would send 3 pieces and then activate that trap and return them all to your hand. So there was like little tricks like that. But the most classic way of playing Exodia was through Searcher cards. And then after that, kind of, you know, after more sets came out, winning through Exodia like that was pretty much unheard of. A lot of the cards got banned. You couldn't play them. The deck just fell apart. Unplayable. Later on, much later on, when we got more draw power cards, people started to do the speed draw Exodia, which is you literally try and win in 1 turn. You just try and draw your entire deck before your opponent can even do anything. Those are fun. I enjoyed building. I've built a few of those variants before. Fun deck. Problem is that you either win or you don't win. I mean, there's no... If you don't win on your turn 1, you pretty much lose. And I kind of don't like that. I don't like the uncertainty of it. So, fast forward to today, and a lot of the cards that were used in the original Exodia deck are now unbanned. They've errated them. So let's get to my thought on, is it still possible to play an Exodia deck that doesn't involve winning on turn 1 by speeding through your deck? So I'm going to go with the basic cards that were used in the past. And this one came off the ban list. And that's Witch of the Black Forest. They errated her ability, or her effect I should say. Essentially, when she's sent to the graveyard, you search your deck. It's for a monster with a defense of 1500 or less, you know, added to your hand. And I believe the reason why this was banned for so long was it wasn't for Exodia. It was for a lot of other decks that would grab their strongest monsters, because 1500 or less defense, a lot of big monsters had like very low defense. So what they've done is they've changed her effect to say that if she's sent to the graveyard, you still add a card to your hand, 1500 or less defense, but you cannot activate that card or play that card this turn. So it kind of slows her down a little bit. You can't play it on your turn, send it to the graveyard, get the card you need. But for Exodia, that doesn't matter, because Exodia doesn't activate. It's a win condition. You don't activate any parts of the Exodia. As long as you have all 5 pieces in your hand, you win the game. That's it. So the other thing that's great about her is she's a spellcaster. And I'm going to get to that later. So, of course, we have the other guy. Sangan, which is pretty much the same idea. He was on and off the ban list, off the restricted list, throughout the time of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! During my time anyways. Again, same idea, except it's an attack of 1,000 or less. So he's a little bit weaker, but he's perfect because all the Exodia pieces are under 1,000. They're 1,000 or less. So he pulls out every single piece of Exodia as long as he goes to the grave. And he has the same errated effect that you cannot activate that card that turn. But like I said with Witch of the Black Forest, I don't care. This is a Fiend monster, so there was some options also playing in this deck, like Tour Guide. I originally put that in there, but then I took it out. And I did that to add in some more spellcasters. I did end up throwing in one Emissary of the Afterlife. I don't know why I kept this one in there. I think because it's a 4. That's probably the main reason why I want that. And why I want that, and what this guy does essentially is kind of like Sangan, only both players get to search their deck for a normal monster of level 3 or lower. So if your opponent's playing normal monsters, they actually get something out of this, but most people don't. But he's a searcher, essentially. Sent to the graveyard, add a piece to your hand. And the main monster that I want to rely on is Summoner Monk. Again, a spellcaster. And this guy, you discard a spell card, search your deck for a level 4 monster, which could also be this guy, or your Witch of the Black Forest, and it puts it in defense position. Its effect is negated, but it doesn't matter because those guys, their ability goes off when they hit the graveyard, so they're no longer on the field anyways. And so the reason why I'm saying I want to rely on the spellcasters is because the next part of your deck is your draw ability. So that's pretty much it for the monsters. I do have 3 Battle Faders in there. I don't really consider them monsters because you don't typically use them as monsters. You use them as self-defense. If your opponent attacks, you can slap this thing down, stop the attack, and the battle phase. So it just kind of saves your life for one turn. And they're dark, which is another reason why I play them. So onto the spells. The reason why I play the spellcasters is because I want to use this card, which is called Wonder Wand. And now this is amazing with Witch of the Black Forest, because what you do is you equip it. You have to equip it to a spellcaster monster. It gains 500 attack, which you don't really care because you never really attack in this deck with this deck unless you have to. And as long as you control that equipped monster, you could send both this card and the equipped monster to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. So what I would do is I would equip this to my Witch of the Black Forest, and then send her to the graveyard, draw my 2 cards, and search out a piece of Exodia. And that's pretty good. I mean, you can almost pull 3 pieces of Exodia right there if you draw the 2 pieces with the wand effect, and then search out a piece with the witch effect. You got 3 pieces right there, on top of whatever you might have already drawn in your opening hand. So far I've decided to play 2. And they will work with in a pinch. If you just have Summoner Monk, you could decide instead of activating his effect to put the Wonder Wand on him, just send him to the graveyard, draw 2 cards. So either way, as long as you can get it onto a spellcaster, you can get 2 cards out of that, which is good. I mean, you get 2 for 1. The other part of the draw power of this deck, and this, like, draw power is always important in Exodia decks, and that's Allure of Darkness. Like I said, the dark mattered. So playing these guys, the Battle Faders, they're all dark. So in a pinch, if I need to banish one, so Allure of Darkness is pretty much banish a dark monster, draw 2 cards. Well, actually, it's the other way around. You draw 2 cards, then you banish a dark monster. So you got to be careful. If the only dark monster in your hand is Exodia pieces, you don't want to banish an Exodia piece because then you're done. This deck doesn't have a way to retrieve banished cards. And I didn't really work in any way to retrieve back from the graveyard either. So if your opponent's playing discard cards, you could lose. Then just the standard draw power, Upstart Goblin, which is pretty much just draw a card. Your opponent gains 1,000 life. Who cares? 1 day apiece. Really good card. Too bad it's only at 1 per deck, but I mean, this would be brutal if you could play 3 of them. And this essentially, both players draw a card, and nobody could do any damage till your next turn. So you could stay alive during your opponent's next turn. And the last, draw power. 3 pot of dualities, just to dig into your deck. If you're not familiar with it, you pretty much just take the top 3 cards of your deck, choose one of them, put it in your hand, put the rest back on your, or shuffle the rest back into your deck. Pretty cool card. I mean, I remember when it first came out, it was the secret rare, and I bought the set that it was in, hoping I would pull it, and I ended up pulling it, which is this one here, the first edition one that I have. That's the secret rare, the first edition of Duelist Revelations, I think it was, that this came out in. So anyways, the rest of the spell lineup is just to try and keep myself alive. Now, this is where I would say this will need some improvement. You know, right now I'm just playing Messenger apiece. It just stops monsters of 1,500 attack or more from attacking. So if your opponent starts dropping big guys onto the field, I mean, they can pop this with some effects and all that stuff. There are better cards to use than this, but I don't have anything right now. And I just threw in Dark Door. Again, your opponent can only attack with 1 monster. So it tries to slow your opponent down. And unless they're playing with a lot of spell and trap destruction, you could, if this can sit on the board for many turns, your opponent's going to take too long to kill you. It might not even kill you before you draw your Exodia pieces. And then Monster Reborn, just to bring back a Sandgan or a Witch or whatever. Now, I was thinking about main decking Compulsory Evacuation Device, like maybe 2 or 3, which is a trap that bounces a monster on the field to the hand. Just in a pinch that if someone were to discard one of my pieces, I could Monster Reborn it and then bounce it back to my hand. But, I mean, the scenario there for that to happen and for me to survive long enough for that to happen, I don't know. And for the traps, right now, I'm just playing with more, essentially, Monster Reborns. So I got Powerful Rebirth. I got 3 of those here. And this is basically activate this card by targeting 1 level 4 or lower monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. And then it increases its level by 1, which is irrelevant, and its attack by 100, and if it's destroyed, destroy this card. So essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to bring back Sandgan or Witch or Summoner Monk or something that you need from your graveyard to help dig back into your deck. And then 1 Call It a Haunted, which is essentially the same idea. The beauty of this card is that you can summon it in defense mode. Call It a Haunted summons it in attack mode, which could kill you. I mean, if your only card is this one and you can only bring out a Sandgan and your opponent is attacking with a big monster, unless that Sandgan is going to search out the piece and you still have some life, you're dead anyways. And to top things off, I figure I need to have something to prevent things, so 3 Solemn Judgments. Because you really don't care about your life points. As long as you have 1 life point, you just need to pull out your Exodia pieces. And that's pretty much the deck that I put together now. Obviously, I haven't really tested it too much. I've played it against one of my other decks, like a Lightsworn deck, just for fun, just to see what would happen. And it was like, you know, some duels I won, some duels I lost. You know, Lightsworn has the ability to destroy a lot of cards, so, you know, cards like the Messenger of Peace and the Dark Door and all that. You know, there is a spell card, the name escapes me. I'm still new with a lot of the newer cards that came out, but it pretty much is a spell card that prevents your opponent from attacking or activating monster effects if they have more monsters than you do. I'm going to wait and see if that gets hit on the ban list before I even consider picking those up. But yeah, I mean, that's it. This is what I was thinking about, that maybe it's a possibility of Exodia, a classic Exodia deck working in today's format. But yeah, it's still something to mess around with, still something to have fun with. Let me know what you think. If you've experienced or have experience playing Exodia decks or know the newer cards that would work better in this deck, throw it down in the comments below. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.